Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest and co-creator, Cammy. Hey, Cammy, how's it going?
Hey, Bryant, I am doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. I think it just swept away. I didn't mention it. We're on the 4th anniversary, 3rd.
It's 2019.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
19, 20,
29
21, 22,
is
3 years.
3 years.
There you
Yeah,
go.
three
Happy
year
birthday,
anniversary.
Mythstorie. Look at that. We just a couple kids starting a show in a room, and now we're doing the same thing, just in our own homes.
3 years later. Yeah.
3 years later. So as you know, Mythstorie, we talk about myths and legends. We've got a very fun one today. I was really happy. This was from your partner, right? Candace thought of this?
Yes, Candace did think of this.
That's right. So
She
shout out
brought
to
it up to
Candace.
me.
Because this is wonderful. It's fairy rings. The mushroom circles and things like that. Sometimes they just look like grass circles. That's such a great topic. That's amazing. It's wonderful. It's
I
not
was pretty impressed.
exactly. It's not. I wasn't disappointed per se. There's not like a huge depth to it, but it is very important, especially in Western Europe. So, anyways, we'll jump right into it. Cammy, you got a story for us, an original, I believe.
I do, yes.
Excellent. And then after that, I will talk about some of that myth, legend, what we've got. It's going to be great. Sit back, kids.
I
Cammy,
do
you
want to.
ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say I do not have a source for this because, like Bryant said, it is an original.
The source is England.
Right. Or that
Ask
general
them.
area.
Yeah.
Right. And basically, I'm sure Brian will get into it, but the fairy rings there's so many different ideas as to what they are and what is causing them. So it's not just like fairies and stuff. So I there's no source here basically. Yeah. No, child. There's no such thing as fairies. Come close and I can tell you what secrets may lie beneath the soil. Nothing so vile and wicked graces this land. You should be afraid of other men and wolves and winter's chill, but not fairies. Certainly you could come closer. Certainly. A child, no more than 7 inches closer. You're invited. Child. He stops as if he hears me. I know that's not true. He can feel my begging, though, in his blood. He knows what I want, and he obliges. Aaron, no! The child backs away, sheepish and small. Another much older child scolds him for coming so close. Don't you know the stories? Don't you listen to Gran? Fairy rings are dangerous. Aaron hangs his head and turns towards the clearing, not so much as daring a glance back. Stories. That's my enemy. The tales old women weave in the safety of their kitchen, where they'd cook and eat me if they could. Fairies, always fairies. Don't go near that circle, for you'll find yourself in the realm of fairies, a place where time stands still. They'll make you dance until you die. Ridiculous. But no child comes inside who's heard their grand's warnings. There is only one way, if I am to take what I need from this land. I will cover myself with dried leaves and expose only a tasty morsel in the center of my ring. So that night the work began, wriggling and writhing until leaves covered the circle, and it was time for rest. Early that next day, an old woman came from the house with a truffle basket, her face weary, then elated at the sight. A huge and tasty morsel, just right for seasoning soup. The children would be happy tonight. The old woman nearly skipped to the specimen, but just then the ground around her began to loosen as the mycelium worked its way above the soil, grabbing at her limbs, holding her and dragging her in the depths of the earth, the ring disappearing for its meal. Fairies. With all the horror and dread in this world, there is no need for fairies.
Oh, I like
So
that
dark.
buzzword, mycelium.
Thanks.
That's really cool too, because that's a big part of how they scientifically form. Of course, it's that root-like network. But of course, that's not, like the 9th century Welsh kid. It wasn't like, look, Pop, mycelium,
Right.
Look, da. So that's great, though. Yeah, they can. I'm sure you've seen even like fragments of these. Sometimes you get a really cool perfect circle, like we do. Like we have a shady area behind the apartment, and the recent storms, because it was stormy and then really hot, and I guess it was just kind of perfect for them. But they'll pop up and they will make these nice little rings, and the science behind it is pretty straightforward. It's just really wild how many times that the circle is perfect. But yeah, basically, like, these spores are kind of spreading, they get in some good lawn, and then they make that circle, and it kills, like, the when you don't see the mushrooms, but you see, like, the grass, like, it's the grass is, like, dead. That's what's making it distinguished.
Right.
But then, yeah, it's growing out. But sometimes it's great because you get, like, a whole bunch of mushrooms that form in a perfect circle too. There was Ancient Origins had an article on them, and they had a picture of some fairy rings in moss in Iceland, and these were really cool because they almost look like rippled circles, so they weren't like perfect circles. None of them, I'm looking at it now, none of them even make a full circle, but it's a bunch of semicircles, or I guess there's like one inner circle and then several others in this
Oh,
moss.
that's crazy. So
Yeah,
it's like a pebble dropped in a
yep. And then
lake or
ripples, and
something.
as the ripples go, there's like one full, like a full circle in the middle, and then the rest of the circles aren't full. So yeah, it's a really cool phenomenon how they grow. And about 60 kinds of mushrooms are capable of growing this way and do that, and it's weird, it's unusual, it's mythical, but it's not mythical enough. It's not mythical enough to be like Hercules or something. It grew. I mean, mushrooms are everywhere, but it seems like um, Europe, Western Europe, the British Islands is where a lot of the like stuff that we get today. I did kind of try and peek around a little bit and see if there were any other cultures, and it looks like in the Philippines they are. There's a mythology behind them. Diminutive spirits are associated with them, so they are kind of seen it negatively. It's either a hazard or unlucky. Sometimes they're lucky though. Sometimes it's like a good thing to see because it is so unnatural. Like, oh, it's a circle, but then like it seems like with like Welsh and stuff like that, you're still just kind of like, don't go to it though, don't touch it. But it's cool. And we were talking about this before the show. Sometimes it's a sign in myth just to grow around there, but you leave it alone. But it's like, oh, this land's going to be good. We should harvest around it.
Oh yeah, wait, was it the Dutch?
No, I think that might have been Welsh, I believe.
Okay, yeah, it was one culture definitely used them as like, okay, this is where I need to put my farm.
Right, yeah. And so it's fun to see just kind of how it goes. There's Austrian actually, yeah, here. So mythos.fandom.com, which is funny because it used a lot of the sources that I found, so it's kind of like doing my job for me. They bring up in like the British Islands, Celtic, English mythology. It's a fairy circle specifically, and it usually is. We've talked about fairies before. I think only on the older audio only episodes. I think we did one with Peter, if I remember right. And fairies were very bad. Like it was kind of like old
Right.
school children's things where like, don't do this because you'll die, and then it kind of changed to get a little more PG. But fairies were like, this is why my kid went to the forest to play and never came back because the fairies got him, that kind of thing. So that's what this was. And it kind of got tied to dancing, like fairies are dancing in there. And it looks like specifically in Welsh mythology too, if a human goes in there, the fairies will make you dance until you're exhausted and die.
One thing cool that I was reading about that was if you step into the fairy ring, you actually go into the fairy realm. And so time works differently there.
Yes, I put that in bold text.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's awesome. This gardencollage.com had a great write up on this. And yeah, the fairy world differs from that of the human one. A person could dance for minutes in a fairy ring, only to discover that it has been days or weeks in the human one, and all your sheep are slightly older. Oh no.
Right.
But that was a
But
Welsh
that would
thing.
be exhausting.
Right. Oh no, they need shearing. I just did it. Yeah, and I just thought that was cool too. We did an episode on Welsh, Anun, the portals to the other realm and things like that. And it's specific because
Yeah.
it's not quite. It's like it's where you go when you die, but it's not like the realm of the dead. It's a place that you can achieve. It's a you can get there as a mortal. It's really weird. It's really interesting, and I like that we're seeing that again here. And one of the sources that a lot of like Wikipedia and a lot of these things used was this book called Toads and Toadstools by Adrian Morgan. It came out in '85. There's a you can borrow it through the Internet Archive for free. And the most recent publication is from '95, and it's really cool. Let me see if I can get to the back real quick. It looks like this person, it was like for their family. They just kind of wanted to go on. The result is this astonishing compendium of art history, cultural anthropology, pharmacology, herpetology, mycology, and serious conjecture. A felicitous pairing of art and nature, toads and toadstools, is as much a feast for the eyes as the intellect. So this person, Morgan, they they ate these mushrooms, they drew them, they did original illustrations. It's a fun book. And it goes from like each country, from Europe to Asia, basically everywhere except America, it looks like. But yeah, and there's a whole chapter, the toad and witchcraft. So it also talks about toads themselves and how that
Those
connection
are very popular right
got.
now.
Yeah, so hot right now, toads.
They are, well, frogs. I don't know. So
Right,
it's not the same thing, I guess.
close enough. But yeah, it is really cool. Back to so like in German, the name of them is the Hexenringe, which is literally like witch's ring, and they're very
Hmm.
much so malicious. Walpurgis Night is what they're associated with, which became like a Christian saint thing, but it's 6 months before Halloween, and it's a special night of what Walpurgis Nacht, the spring celebration 6 months before Halloween, where witches gather to dance in circles, leaving the rings of mushrooms.
That's like Beltane,
Oh yeah,
right? Like it's about the same time period.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, like that spring solstice kind of thing.
One thing I do find interesting, I have a friend that's Welsh. Her name is Debbie, and it's
Mm,
not Irish Debbie that comes on here. It's a different
right.
person.
Oh,
And and she was telling me that the mushrooms where she is, she can just eat them all. Where she was
oh
from, like
wow.
just any ones you pick. And the Welsh is a lot less menacing than the other ones, and I wonder if that's anything to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. And like you typically kind of stay away from them still, like in the older mythologies, like growing up stories and things like that. It was cool. It seems like around the Victorian era, the stories, just like a lot of these stories did, kind of resurged, and these ideas of that they were created under the moonlight. The English folklore character of Puck, sometimes known as Robin Goodfellow, as famous from A Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare, could be involved in them. So there was this like playful mischievousness that I don't. I'm. This is just kind of what I'm getting, is that this kind of came about in the 19th century from talking about these sort of things. These old British ideas and mythologies that these fancy people were talking about because they were bored. So it's really and from this time period too, and before, there's tons of like local legends that are based on the consequences of entering the ring. So it's a perfect little like plot point. Like the story could they have almost nothing to do with anything, but it's just like it's a plot device. Entering the fairy ring. It's just a pure plot device to allow. Oh yes, of course he entered the fairy ring. Well, that explains that. So I thought that was really cool. In France, they call them rondes de sorcellerie. So that's like sorcery rounds,
Right.
right? And in like I didn't write it down for some reason. It was in one of these in Norway. They call them it's like elf rounds is what they call them. It's like elf round or something like that. So yeah, it's cool. Like, and all these places kind of share a language history going back hundreds of years, as well as like Vikings and the travel, the movement of these peoples. So it would make sense that these are really similar folklores. The two that are kind of weird are you mentioned the Dutch earlier, and also the Austrians. They had to go out of their way and apparently for Dutch mythology, this is the location of where the devil would churn his milk.
That's what it was. Yeah, the devil. Okay. I get them confused. You're right about the Welsh thing. Yeah.
So, and apparently, if one of your cows gets through there, then their milk goes sour. Then the Austrians, theirs is
Just
just
for
pretty simple.
eternity, right? Like
Yeah, just
it's just sour now.
go ahead and kill that cow. It's over. For the Austrians, it's fairy rings are the result of dragons burning circular rings into the forest floor with their fiery tails. Okay,
All
Austrians,
right.
guess you don't know what
Yeah.
fire looks like. But yeah, so it's really interesting, and those were just some little fun ones that kind of stuck out. A lot of that's from Mythos, which they got from Britannica as well. Which has a nice little more science focused pickup of it. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's a really simple concept. It's cool. I think like I don't know. I guess when you see it when you're a kid, you're so like entranced by it, because it's like it's amazing. It's what a mushroom is. You
I,
get that they grow, but it's
right.
circle and it's
I saw
perfect.
one recently, actually,
Yeah.
at a friend of mine's house, and it's really funny. The friend it is would be the one with a fairy ring. Like, she's definitely the type of person that would
She's a
invite the
witch.
fairies to come. Right.
Yeah.
And my dog ran through it, and I was like, "Oh no, it's milk sour now." But no, but I was a little hesitant to walk through it, just to be
Right.
honest. Like, I mean, even though it's not real, but
Right. No, that's great. Yeah, but it's so notable. It's like it's just that symmetry. It's so symmetrical and natural
yeah.
symmetry. It's just like whoa, it makes you stop and think. Oh, here's the Norwegian word alvedans. Um, alva being like elf and that's it. Yeah, it's and dans being like dance, like elf
Oh,
dance.
elf dance. Okay.
Yeah. So
It's
that's the
so
one
weird
that
how
like stuck in my
similar
head.
all these are to English. I mean, it's not
I
weird,
know.
but
Yeah.
it
No,
is weird at the same time.
it pie, Proto-Indo-European, man. It's weird. You go on an etymology kick, and it'll like you're just going like, what? That word is that word? What? What? It's nothing but that. So yeah, it's really cool. And I should have like not just during the Victorian period, but during the 17th century as well. There were a lot of homage paintings. In fact, like European authors and playwrights since the 13th century have been including it. Arthurian romance legends, and of course William Shakespeare of the 16th century. He mentions not necessarily them specifically. Oh no, yeah, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind is from the then there's also something in the Tempest. So there are these references to these rings and these nature scenes and things like that, and it can only
In the
mean one thing.
Midsummer.
In Midsummer Night's Dream and in the Tempest, it looks like apparently too. Yeah, by moonshine do the green sour ringlets make. So maybe that's where the Victorians got the whole like moonlit night. Oh, you can only see it because good old Bill said that. Um, so yeah, it's cool. So that was a great like story. It very local to Europe, it seems like, but of course this can kind of happen anywhere. If you know of any like non-European sort of stories or fun little what do you call it? Superstitions, that's the word. Regarding fairy rings, I'd love to hear them because like I said, they kind of do go everywhere. And this book, I think it was actually from the Toads and Toadstool book. They mention the Philippines and how it's these diminutive spirits. Nothing kind of much beyond that. It doesn't seem like it's too sinister beyond like just people messing around. But yeah, it's cool. I like it. That your story did a really good job of it being a lure. This
Mhm.
perfect ring being a lure, and I like that too. So like a lasso of mushrooms. All right. Well, Cammy, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for your story.
Yes, thank you.
This I felt like it was fitting for our fall kind of kickoff episode. Next we're gonna do a full week of episodes or full month. We're doing
Full
7
week.
episodes
Yes.
next week. I haven't slept. Full month of episodes for October. We always like to do spooky stuff, and that's what we've got planned. If you guys have any suggestions though for after that, let us know. Someone just mentioned in YouTube they've got a Cretan myth that they're going to
Okay.
recommend. I told them to please send it to us. So yeah, that'll be really fun. So yeah, let us know. Mythstorie@gmail.com. If you're watching, it's spelled up there. It's story with an IE, Mythstorie, all one word. But you can email us. Facebook group's a good way to get in touch with us too. I'm Bryant. That's Cammy.
Rate,
That's it.
review, subscribe.
Yeah, all that. Well, excellent, Cammy. Any last words?
No, I think that's it. That wraps it up.
Excellent. Well, everyone, we will see you next time.
Oh.
Oh.